on my phone in a while. Hello and very welcome to another JMac podcast. I'm John Man. Of course, the podcast brought to you by Atak.com and Atak.ie. Use the promo code JMac podcast to get 15% off on Atak.com and get the best games gold script on Atak.ie. Be attack-minded. And today, I'm joined by a good Cavan man. So finally, a bit of sense has been brought onto the podcast. It's delighted to be joined by Colin McCabe. Obviously, Colin I went to school with the man, and he's absolutely flying these days. He's been involved in soccer for a long, long time at this stage, and he's flying at it. And he's currently with Atak.ie United in the League of Ireland at the minute, and he's finished off a degree in accounting finance.
Yeah, I am indeed. Yeah, just finished.
Yeah. So he's a busy man, and delighted to get chatting to him. How are you, Colin?
Good, thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, keeping well. Like you said, just finished a degree and contemplating the start of masters now. So I thought I'd be kind of rolling down a bit with the books, but I'm actually just in the middle of it. So, but yeah, happy enough to be doing that. And like you said, in the middle of a season here with Atak.ie United, 7 games left to go. So unfortunately, we've no cup anymore, and we're not really going for the top end of the league. But I suppose we've got 7 big games to try and finish as high as we can, and look, that'll be enjoyable enough as well.
Good stuff. And I suppose, how's life these days? We were chatting off air. You're based in Dublin at the minute. You're living up there. So what's life like up there? Obviously, I know the times we're in, everything's probably gone a bit mad. But how are you enjoying life up there?
Yeah, it's good. Like, you know, I've probably since I came home a number of years ago, I've probably been based in Dublin, through football education courses or football or college or whatever. So yeah, fairly settled up here. Living with the girlfriend, nice part of Dublin. So it's busy. There's always plenty to be doing. You know, whether that's training or recovering or coaching. And yeah, I can't really complain now. But when I do get the chance, I do go home and make sure I'm still welcome at home and not forgotten about.
Yeah, it's always good to show the face as well. And I suppose, that's what I mean. Like, it's all changing now. And I suppose obviously you try to get home as much as possible. And I suppose it is a bit of a rat race up in Dublin. Like, there's obviously so much going on, and obviously the price and cost of everything. So how are you maybe adjusting to all that at the minute?
Yeah, look, it is costly. There's no doubt about it, and I think that's affecting everyone. Regardless if you're working or your student life or whatever it is, and the temptations to move home and save money is always there. And I think at home last weekend or 2 weeks ago when I was chatting to a fella, and he's recently moved home from Dublin, and I think that seems to be more of the recurring theme, that many young lads are in fact deciding to move home, whether that's for commitment or travel or being able to work from home. But I think this person in particular referenced that they're able to save roughly about 12 to 15 grand a year in rent. So that is a lot of money, you know, and you know, if you didn't have it, you'd certainly know all about it. So, yeah, I'm still here at the moment. I've signed a new lease for the rent in the apartment, but the way things are going, it's getting more and more expensive. And I think Cavan mightn't seem so far away after all. So if there's a spare bedroom at home, I might have to get on to Mum and Dad and see how it is.
Yeah. Make sure not to burn any bridges now in the next couple of weeks, Colin, because they could be expecting you back anytime soon. Great stuff, Colin. Man, it's good to see you're settling all as well. And I suppose obviously life at Atak.ie United at the minute. How's it all going? Obviously, the League of Ireland is growing serious blocks. Obviously, we see Damien Duff going managing Shelbourne at the minute. So the profile of the league is building and building. You see games in RT, every second week or so. So it's building serious blocks.
It is, and I think it's a fair comment to say. Like, I think, to be fair, Duff probably raises the profile of it naturally enough. Probably being one of Ireland's best ever players, attacking players anyway, that's for sure. So him coming in, and I think straight away off the bat, he was kind of going on about facilities and stadiums and attendance and all that, and saying that most people in the league are volunteers. There's no Sky deal like there is with the GAA, so it does require a massive amount of volunteers, part-time workers, and I think probably since Duff's arrival, I think a lot more clubs are looking at themselves and going, well, how can we improve our facilities? You've got a high roller like this person coming in and saying that shells need to be better if they want to, be at the top end of the table. So ourselves at Drogheda, I think the club is trying to potentially get a new stadium, go full-time. Our chairman recently came out and done an article with the Independent and said that he's looking for investment. He's looking to go from part-time to full-time. I think in the League of Ireland at the moment, there's 7 full-time teams out of 10. So ourselves, UCD, which is naturally a college, and Finn Harps are the only part-time teams. You know, you have the likes of Galway, Cork, Waterford in the first division that are full-time. So there is money, but you know, I think in order for the league to develop and attract new players and new fans constantly over the next couple of years, the facilities need to be better. Like you look around the GAA, nearly every county has a high quality training ground. Not every League of Ireland team has that. Very, very few, in fact. So I think there's a massive gap. I think we're getting there, but I do think it needs to be massive improvements every year for the next couple of years to even scrape the ground in terms of the GAA.
Yeah, it's really looking like that. Obviously, the GAA has serious buy-in with all that. And I suppose, how are you enjoying the kind of playing for Drogheda at the minute? Like, and obviously, we see the games, obviously the buzz and the atmosphere that just be at the games. It looks a great crack. So, what's it like to be involved?
Yeah, it's very good now, to be fair. I think this year in particular at Drogheda, there's been a big kind of connection between the fans and the players. You know, mostly local people around the town. And it is that bragging rights. You know, if you win, you go into work and you have the bragging rights for a week, and so be it. So, no, it's good. It's enjoyable. Like, look, at the start of the season, I was starting, and the manager decided to bring in a young goalkeeper from England, and I know all about that kind of scenario, which, you know, haven't been there myself. So, yeah, look, he came in, the keeper done well. He got 10 or so games and got a bit of recognition, and since June I think I've played every game and put the head down and worked hard, and I think really in the last four or five games I've put in some really good solid performances, not necessarily what the results have reflected, but you know, in terms of my own individual performance within the team, I've been very, very happy, and I'm just looking to hopefully finish the season as strong and consistent as I can, and just enjoy it really, which is the main thing.
Yeah, and obviously you reference the fact that a young man kind of comes over and obviously starts playing for John, and as you rightly said, you know what that's all about. So, like, do you feel like, is that a bit of a bump in the road when you have to come back and maybe play? Like, maybe it's not as you once first thought, or does that kind of inspire you and bring you on to work harder?
I suppose it's a bit of both. Like, you know, in terms of look, at being 25, I know what I'm about. I know what I can do. And I suppose this kid was maybe 19 and he was good, don't get me wrong, comes from England. And I kind of said to the manager, look, you've got to judge us both the same, you know, and in terms of if he's good enough, he's good enough. And if he's the best for Drogheda, he's the best for Drogheda, or vice versa. If I'm the best, I'm the best. And, you know, he came in and he performed well, and that was really it. And, you know, and regardless if that was me playing or him playing, ultimately it's better. But look, you don't want to sit on the bench, and it's quite simply, and I made that known to the manager that, like, you look, I'm not happy, I'm not here to sit on the bench, and I think I'm training well, I think I'm performing well, but ultimately you don't want to kind of create a bit of chaos in the camp. So you respect the manager's decision. If the goalkeeper or any player isn't performing, the manager's going to make decisions and going to make changes. So naturally it's just a little bit different with a goalkeeper. You kind of want them to get a couple of games and kind of get their feet in and see where they are, and then you can make that decision. So it's a little bit harder to take when you are out of the team. You know, you're not going to get subbed on at 45 minutes or 60 minutes. So, yeah, it makes it a little bit tougher. But again, you might just knuckle down a bit harder and look at yourself and clean up your diet, clean up your gym work, clean up your training performances, and ultimately just respect the decision that's made on game day.
Absolutely. And I suppose, like, the standard, the quality of games as well, Colin, like when you're in the midst of it, or I don't know if you go behind, if you take the lead, like how kind of clued in, how focused you need to be to get your team over the line, because obviously different to GAA, Colin, it's 90 minutes of hard graft plus at a time, so you need to be very on the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being at Drogheda, being a team that doesn't necessarily dominate the ball, doesn't dominate possession, you are probably the busier keeper in nearly every game, and that's just a fair reflection of how the games go. So in one respect, you don't really zone out of concentration. You know you're going to be busy, you know you're going to be constantly tested, whether that's just decision making, whether that's just kicking, whether that's just communication. You know, obviously your shot stop and taking crosses, they're all part and parcel of the game. But yeah, you're busy. Sometimes it's like a nice and easy game where you're dominating the ball, you're dominating possession, and you score loads of goals, and you don't have to make a save. But that comes with it, I suppose. Training well during the week just get you ready for the game, and yeah, I'd like to be naturally the busier goalkeeper, anyways. But I do be fairly busy on game days, that's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. I suppose obviously you have like been in the League of Ireland now for the last couple of years. You played for the likes of Bohemians and Shelbourne to name a few, and obviously Drogheda currently Colin. So like, kind of any main differences or big difference between the three clubs?
I'd say each club is different. Each manager brings different ideas. My time at Bows, we were very much tried to play out from the back, tried to keep the ball, tried to keep possession with young players, energetic players that wanted to maybe show what they were capable on the ball. Both were an established team in the Premier Division at the time, so you knew going into maybe the majority of the games that you were going to create chances. You were going to create, or you were going to dominate the ball and stuff. Then in terms of Shells, first year there, we were the main team in the first division. We had targets on our back. Everybody expected us to win each game 5-0. So that was a different mindset. You had to be ruthless. You couldn't concede goals. You had to keep clean sheets. You had to dominate the ball. You had to beat teams. Otherwise, it was a failure. And then when you came up into the Premier Division, all of a sudden you've gone from the big fish to the small fish. When you don't have the ball, you had to nearly defend every game. So I think between Shells and Drogheda in the last couple of years, I've known what's going to be expected. I know that kind of you're up against it nearly every game. You're kind of punching a little bit above your weight, but you're able to compete. You just have to be a little bit more clinical. You have to be smarter with the ball, make smarter decisions. I still believe in a 10-team division that anybody can be anybody. It's just the nature of the beast, but it comes down to whoever is more consistent, who's going to be a bit more calmer. When it gets a bit frantic, who's just going to make the right decisions. And yeah, I think the transition between Shells and Drogheda since I've been here, I think I've known my role. I know what's going to be expected in games, and that's probably made it a bit easier in the last couple of games, that I know going to certain grounds where it's going to be a little bit hostile, or you're going to playing against certain teams. Their style. That they're going to dominate the ball. You have to be a bit more clued into your position at key moments in the game. So I think I've learned that aspect of the league and who you're playing against. As I've spent more time in the league, I suppose. Yeah.
I suppose obviously you're going through the clubs, like, and obviously you're really enjoying your time with Drogheda at the minute. It's a big learning curve. Like the team, like Bohemians, in fairness, probably one of the biggest clubs in the League of Ireland the last couple of years. Colin, so what was your time like there?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I came home and didn't really know much about the League of Ireland. Didn't really grow up watching it. I was very much GAA when I was younger and stuff. So it's not like I went to League of Ireland games every weekend when I was younger and stuff. Probably would have been either Dundalk or Sligo. So I had to learn really what the club was about. I think they've got a great fan base. I think they've got a great atmosphere going in Phibsburg, so they've got good people in the club, kind of, again, all volunteers, all diehard supporters and stuff. So I really enjoyed my time there, and I was up against a good goalkeeper in Shane Supple, that some people might know the name, and he was a quality goalkeeper and just a quality person. So it didn't really work out because I was up against one of the best. Probably, he could still have been in England. He was in around the Ireland international setup at times. Obviously in around the Dublin setup. So he was highly.
Yeah, he says in 13, wasn't it?
Yeah, very, very good goalkeeper, and so, and just unfortunately the way it worked, I had to make the decision to move on and stuff. So, but no, I really enjoyed it there. I've enjoyed it at every club, really. I've enjoyed it being in the League of Ireland. I think there really is great people in it, and there's great people in it that are trying to grow the league. As there is, it's like a community, almost like community clubs. GA clubs around the country. So, coming from the community, coming from a small enough area, I know where people are coming from, their loyalty to the club and their loyalty to the game and stuff. So, yeah, it's been really enjoyable, I suppose. And I only ever speak highly of the league to anybody that ever asks, whether that's in Ireland or out of it. Yeah, I can't really recommend it enough.
Yeah, it seems very good. And obviously your time with Shelbourne as well, and obviously, as we kind of said at the start, Damien Duff is taken over there, and he just looks like a man possessed every game. I don't know, have you been watching him in the game? So your time there?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. You know, I worked under a different manager at the time. It was Ian Morris, and I'd known him from Bows. So he was a player at Bows and then became manager at Shell. So that kind of made that transition to a new club easier. Working with a new manager, I kind of knew who he was, and I knew a little bit about him. Again, a sleeping giant at the time. You know, many people have referenced that it's a sleeping giant club and where it is in Drumcondra. So, yeah, you know, and it's not a sleeping giant anymore in terms of the publicity and PR it's got since stuff has come in. And look, whether good, bad, or indifferent, like, you know, at least he brings a profile to the league. You know, there's maybe could be articles about him. You know, people are looking at him. What's his response going to be, whether they're winning or whether they're losing? And he's only a young manager as well. Look at, yeah, okay, he's gained a lot of experience through it, being a player, a little bit as a coach. But for him, I suppose this is a big task and a big task for the club. And I suppose having been recently promoted from the first division last year, I'm sure they're going to be happy with where they are in the league. They look like they're almost safe to stay up, which would have been their number one objective. So I know the fans there are going to be delighted to stay up, and hopefully they'll be looking to build bigger and better each year, a bit more investment, probably bring a few players in. Yeah, so look, again, another good club, but again, it's probably one of our biggest rivals in terms of where we are in the table. Geographically, probably as well, pulling from the same kind of pool of players. You know, we lost a few players from them last year, so but we also gained a few players from them as well. So, you know, there is a close rivalry between the two clubs. Yeah, so again, I won't wish them too much success, but I will. But it's good to see them doing well, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose, like, even kind of referencing that as well, Colin, like the likes of Damien Duff kind of coming into the league, like obviously we know how important, how like good and well that has worked for the publicity of the league and PR of the league. Like, does it take a fella like Damien Duff, and obviously like there's a lot of retired Ireland internationals, like does it take more lads like Duff to kind of come in and just keep raising that bar?
I suppose it does, and that's no disrespect to any coach, player, or member of any club in the league. But when you have, like I said, a highly recognised international and ex-Premier League player who had a very successful career, and all of a sudden comes in and his first main coaching job is Shelbourne FC. A lot of people in England probably went, who? Like, you know, probably he could have got a job at Chelsea or Blackburn or anywhere he was. Did you know? So he was at Celtic and decided to come home for family reasons. So yeah, I'd say a lot of people stood up and went, all right, who's this club and what exactly are they about and what league are they in? And then all of a sudden, maybe foreign investors are like, well, I might invest in that club because he's there. Do you know? So that again only raised the profile. I do think he has come in and probably within Shelbourne itself set higher standards on and off the pitch, maybe in terms of facilities, maybe in terms of what he wants and what he expects to be a professional full-time setup. And again, other clubs are going to go, well, if Shells are one of our rivals in terms of where they are on the table, we're going to need to maybe match them a little bit. So naturally, whether clubs like it or not, he probably has come in and made the league better. You know, it's probably attracted certain players to the league that wouldn't necessarily have looked at coming here to get games or on loans from England or anywhere else. So, yeah, look, long may it continue. And I suppose the players at Shells will probably get a good education from him. And then players will want to join that club, and maybe more managers will want to get involved in other clubs, and maybe new clubs will be set up around the country. So it's all good. It's all positive, really.
Yeah, it definitely is, Colin. It definitely is. And so, kind of talking about football and journeys, obviously it did start back for you, and was it, I think it's 2012, 2013, and heading off to Celtic, fresh faced, like myself back then, Colin, and you're kind of going into the unknown, I suppose. What was it like setting off back then? Because at the end of the day, you're leaving home, you're leaving your friends, and you're starting a new journey.
Yeah, mad because coming from Cavan, not many people get that opportunity. I think Killian Sheridan, Johnny Leddy, Ryan O'Reilly are probably a few names to spring to mind, and a few since myself, and hopefully a few more. But
Jake White Hayes, yeah.
Jake as well, yeah, sorry, he's another big one as well, and doing very well. So, yeah, like it's not a county that is known for its soccer stars or whatever. So, or even soccer teams or soccer success. So, yeah, like, you know, I remember going away or going to the Kennedy Cup and hearing about trials, but you don't really believe it because you're from Cavan. You're like, yes, there's probably someone else there, or they're not really interested in me. But yeah, it happened, and I think at 14, roughly give or take, I knew that I was going to be going at 16, and I suppose kept it quiet for a long time. And I think maybe at 15, I had to make the decision to give up GA, and I think I maybe kind of kept playing for Ballina, but I think I stopped playing with Pats, and a few people were kind of starting to ask questions why, and I couldn't really tell too many people too many things just in case it never worked out, and you're never guaranteed that it would. So I suppose I kind of had to keep it under wraps for a while and look after injuries and all that kind of stuff, and leaving school, and it was mad, but something that I always look back with fond memories. I think people can always be like, oh, it's tough coming back, and how did you settle when you came back? And I always said, look, it was the chance of a lifetime. I got close to 5 unbelievable years in Scotland, met some great people, went on some unbelievable trips around the world. Like just that you'd never get it again, and like lived like a full-time pro for a number of years, and it was just a class environment, and it's just a dream. Like everybody has that dream, whether it's to be an artist or a golfer or a professional soccer player. Once you're given a little taste of that dream, you'd give anything and everything to make it possible. And I gave it absolutely everything, and it wasn't to be maybe out of my hands. Probably majority of it was people way above me make decisions, and whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them, that's just the way your path has to go. And I look fortunate enough to come home and have a great family and friends around me to go, look, don't be disappointed about anything. There's a home here, there's a club there that'll take you back in the morning. If you want to go to college, you can go to college. If you want a job, you can get a job. So life goes on, life continues, and you probably do feel sorry for yourself initially when you come home.
Of course, yeah.
But you get over it. You just remember that it's a game of football, and if you want to keep living that dream, you can play for Cavan Town, you can play for Dundalk, or you could give it up and nobody's going to make any difference. Nobody's going to care any different. Everybody's going to go on about their lives, and you're going to go on about yours. So, look, there's no book how you're supposed to live your life. You just wake up and do what you feel is right. So, for me, there was a couple of phone calls when I did come home from Cavan and from Ballina, and they're still there. But I'm just happy to be doing what I'm doing. And the minute I don't enjoy it, I'll always change path. I'll always do something different. But I've never not enjoyed it, and I've always said that the minute I don't enjoy it is the minute I know I have to hang that up and do something new. But I'm just glad I still enjoy it, and it's kind of that suffering that you do feel when you come home didn't really, take full control of how I grew up playing the game.
Yeah, you definitely look very, very in control of what you want to do and in control of your emotions, I suppose. And obviously, when you were sitting back all them years ago, right, probably at this stage, it probably makes me and you feel old at this stage. But what was it kind of like for you? Because obviously, I think I was doing transition year with you, and I was just saying, fair play. I think everyone was probably in awe of you in the year. You're obviously a big miss around the classroom and bits and pieces. But what was it all like? Because at the end of the day, your mates, as I said at the start, your club, your family, it couldn't have been easy.
No, and it wasn't, but I think, everyone is so excited for you. Everyone is so happy for you. Younger cousins, all the friends and stuff, family members are like, Jesus, I'd love to be you. I'd love to have that opportunity and stuff. So, just take it with both hands. And, it was so surreal for the first couple of months, I'd say. I'd not even say first year. Like, you're kind of like, right, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm good enough to be here. Like, these guys have been in the academy since they're 4. I only started playing when I was 11. You're like, I'm good enough to be here. And yeah, you just enjoy it. You just go in every day and look, you live a great life. There's no doubt about it. Especially at a club like Celtic in Scotland, it being the biggest club in the country. It'd be different if I went to a club that was a small club. It could be a bit harder, but you had everything. You had absolutely everything you needed. Every day, you had top quality coaches. Nothing was an issue. If you needed maybe more work, more gym work, whatever, it was there. There's people that wanted to develop you to, in order to get to the first team. So, it was just a top quality service. And look, you have 3 years, and initially I signed a 3-year contract, and they fly by. You know, you're kind of like, oh, 3 years is loads of time. I'll develop in that time. I'll play loads of games. And yeah, I remember coming up to like the last 6 months in the first contract, and you're not too sure what's going to happen. And you hear about all the stats. You know, it's 99% of people don't get a second contract. And yeah, I ended up getting a 2.5 year contract after that. And like, Jesus, I could really make something here. You know, goalkeepers don't get to the prime till they're 25, 26. And you start to believe all that. You start to believe that you're on that journey, you're on that path, and you're still full of, you know, enthusiasm every single day, and you're loving it. You know, I went out in loans and gained invaluable experience and seeing the other side of it then. So I went nearly to the bottom of Scottish football, and like, Jesus, I'm lucky to be at Celtic. I'm lucky to have high quality training grounds, food after training, people who wash your kit. You know, if you need that, and it's there. And then you go to the opposite, and you're like, right, these lads go to work. You know, kind of it's similar to what I'm doing now. They go to work, they train, they still love the game. You know, they wash their own kit. And for me at that age, it was just about playing games, and I loved it. Got out of the academy, started playing games. On a Saturday, it meant more. I could train with Celtic during the week. I could play the lone game on the Saturday, and all of a sudden that started to give me a new energy and a new buzz. And yeah, and then I suppose, you know, with a year left on my contract, Brendan Rodgers was the new manager, and there was 3 keepers for 2 contracts, and the 2 younger keepers who were a year younger than me weren't out on loan, and Brendan Rodgers was seeing them every day. And I remember he pulled me in one day and he was like, look, if you're going to sign a new contract, you're going to kind of be a first team player, so you know, I have to make that decision. And he's like, I think you have a great attitude. I see you in the gym every morning. You're in here early, you're doing extra bits. He's like, I've heard good reports from some of your games. I see you in training a couple of times during the week. He's like, but I have to go with the 2 boys. They're younger. I've seen more of them. And he's like, that's just how football works. And, you know, you can't hold any grudges. You know, my agent was like, don't worry, you've played great games. You're gonna get something new, and you'll get you down to England. And, you know, Brendan was like, look, I can help you out and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, like I said, you know, you're flying and all of a sudden someone just goes pop. There's the bubble after being burst, and you just have to. You can't go, oh, please take me, Brendan. Please give me a contract. Like, you know, whatever. Like it. That's it. That's the business, and that quickly reminds you that it's a business. You know, although it's your dream, it's a business industry. It's a business sport. It's all about what player is going to make the club money, and they made the decision, and that was it. You know, that's how my time ended up, and yeah, all of a sudden thoughts start running through your head, and it's a bit crazy, but you know, you learn to just go to train and wake up and see what happens the next day, and look, you know, life moves on. Like I've said, it's fine, it's part and parcel of it, which I've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I suppose how much do you learn from that as well? Because obviously, like life, unfortunately, it's not a straight line. Probably as everyone's probably learned the last 2 years or 3 years of this COVID, I suppose, Colin. But when you heard that news, what was it, like, your instant reaction? Obviously, you didn't say it to Brendan, but what kind of thoughts are going through your head, I suppose?
I suppose initially it's probably a little bit of a shock. You're kind of like, all right, what now? You know, and I think initially, the biggest factor or emotion I had was, shit, I've let my parents down. That was my biggest thing. That was my biggest feeling, was, shit, I've let my parents down, or I've let my family down. Not myself. Like, you know, I was only doing it for my family. I just wanted to make them proud. Like, you know, I just wanted them to be proud of me. And then all of a sudden you go, maybe they're not going to be proud of me. And then as time goes on, you learn that they're going to be proud of you if you never done it. If you never went to college, your parents and your family are still going to be proud of you. So, but initially that was my thoughts. And it was kind of like, you know, it was close to the summer and you're going to be coming home. And for the last couple of years, every time you came home, people went, how's the football? How's the football? And now all of a sudden that conversation is going to be a different conversation. So, like, I don't, you know, whether I learned that initially at the time, I don't know. But I think as time goes on and I reflect on that, like, years later, I think it definitely matured me. I think going away at 16 matured me at a very young age. I learned I had to stand up for myself. And I think having a setback, maybe not a setback, but something like that at 20 years of age, I suppose now at 24, 25, 26, I'm like, right, well, I've learned from previous things in the past, you know, and I think I'm probably more mellow of a person and more mellow of a player, that when things are going good, I'm mellow. When things are going bad, I'm mellow. You know, I just learned to train well, keep my emotions intact, be very calm. And I think that's probably my biggest attribute, is that I am quite a calm and composed person. But I think only because of some of the stuff that I've had, not to deal with, but I've just learned from and had real life experience in certain situations and certain scenarios that, I suppose I've learned from them. And I suppose I just don't get too high when, you know, when other people might be really choosy or flying at the moment, you're playing really, really well. And then bang, the next game is terrible, you know. So you just learn from these things, I suppose.
Yeah, you need to kind of keep their feet on the ground, I suppose, as the man says. And I suppose, like, when you're over there, like, it is the stuff of dreams. And obviously, then when you're setting off as a young lad, you're seeing Celtic Park on the TV or Sky Sports, whatever it may be. Like, when you're walking around that stadium, going to games, playing, Colin, like, you're thinking you have to be pinching yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Like, and for the first 2 years I was there, we trained like a stone's throw away from Celtic Park. Like, the training ground was there for the academy. We went to lunch. Lunch was in the Celtic Park every day. You went to the gym, that was in Celtic Park. So you're constantly surrounded, and whether you knew it or not, like, this is where you were going to be. This is where you wanted to be, and the club was reminding you that every single day. Like, this is your focus. This is where you want to be. And like, I remember playing an under-17 cup final against Rangers at Celtic Park, and it was in front of 14,000 people, and you're like, wow, this is just scratch the surface stuff. Like, this is just what it could be, you know. But even moments like that, like, I remember the whole game, it was just like a buzz. Like, and I was like thinking to myself, that's 14,000 people. Imagine playing in front of 60, 50, 80,000 people. Like, what's the noise like? What's the atmosphere? What's running through your veins? So yeah, like, I suppose from a young age, it was, you know, you see the big games, you see the Champions League games. You know, I remember Barcelona. You know, I remember some big town teams coming to Celtic Park, and big time players, and you're just like, wow, like, what could be? And then you're looking at them going, there's not much of a difference between you and them, like, you know, and you kind of do start to believe it, and you do kind of go, geez, I could make it to this level. I could really make a good living out of this, and I could be really successful. But yeah, some surreal memories and times, and especially the Champions League nights are, you know, crazy over there, and you just kind of get to see what it could be in the future, you know, if you ever got the chance.
Yeah, and obviously Celtic being kind of so dominant at the time as well, Colin, like, that was obviously really enjoyable to be part of. And obviously, kind of Rangers obviously kind of have got their feet back in the ground. And obviously Celtic had good success over Rangers there on Saturday, much to probably a lot of people's eyes. It was a great win, I have to say. It was a great performance. But, you know, like, just to see that winning mentality, the winning culture, it must have been a joy to behold.
Absolutely. But again, it brings pressure, like, you know. So like I've said, straight away, you had to be the best. You had to beat everything. Do you know what I mean? You had to go into a game going, we have to beat these. Like, you know, a clean sheet was the minimum. You didn't expect to concede against teams. You expected to beat them 3-4-0. And you expected to dominate the ball. You expected to be good with the ball. So again, you know, that success brings pressure. And again, it's how people respond to it. And for me, it was like, right, grand, this is what's expected. I've got to step up. I've got to step up. You know, when they look at McCabe, what's he made of? We can rely on him. We can depend on him. He will make that save in that game, and it looks 3-0 rather than 3-1. And then, you know, again, then winning mentalities, winning trophies, winning competitions, you get to go and play in youth Champions League, and all of a sudden, like I said, you've gone from the big fish to the small fish again, and you're playing Barcelona, you're playing Benfica, you're playing Spartak Moscow, you're playing teams, you're going, right, now we really need to be honest. And that's why you learned every day that the small things mattered, you know, catching every ball or your decision making and training wasn't just because your manager or your coach was shouting at you. It's because that's what's expected of Celtic. The next game was always the biggest game, and that was the motto for 24/7, 365 days of the year. Was the next game is the biggest game, and it didn't matter who was it against, because we had to win every game. So that mentality, I suppose, did come in, that, you know, you never slipped up. They never let you slip up. You know, they never let you really take your eye off the ball. And never let, like you said, you know, you had to be grounded, because there was always someone above you, and there was always someone that could take your jersey, you know, and you were always going for somebody's jersey. And that was the mindset I had. Like, when I went over there, I took someone's jersey. You know, I took a Scottish boy's contract, basically. And now someone's always going to be looking for my contract. And so, you know, that mentality, it comes with the club, it comes with the sport. But yeah, it was a great environment to be in. It was an elite environment, is I suppose was the word that they constantly use. You're an elite player. You're an elite player. You have to have an elite mindset. You have to have elite diet, elite gym. Everything was elite. That's how they wanted to kind of create the mold of a Celtic player. And I suppose only the best really made the cut. So no, very enjoyable, very a great environment to learn as well as a young player.
I suppose as well, Colin, like obviously training with the teammates and bits and pieces, and obviously like you're probably missing home. Like get like maybe if maybe training was a bit tough, or if you maybe came away from a bad result or anything like that, Colin, like it can't be a lonely place at times.
Yeah, definitely. I was lucky that I was in with two Irish boys in Diggs for the first 3 years, and two great lads. Like, one from Cork and one from Wicklow, and then there was another boy from Down. So I think that straight away there was good crop of Irish lads there. I think when I first went over, there was about 6 or 7, maybe 3 or 4 from Cork, one from Dublin, and myself. So, if them boys weren't there, you definitely would have struggled a lot more. Like, you were able to always go, right, let's go get grub, or let's go watch Cavan against, Cork in town, and we could go into the Irish pub and watch the game. And all of a sudden, you're like, right, you've forgotten about the bad morning's training, or you've forgotten about what the manager said to you, or the mistake you made in the game, or whatever. So it definitely would have been worse, I think, if there was no Irish there. And to be fair, my parents and my family probably came across every 6 weeks ish. So that broke it up. We have 6-week blocks. If you're ever struggling, you're like, right, it's just another 3 weeks or 4 weeks till mum and dad are over, or whoever's over, So you're going, get to that point. But to be fair, I didn't really have many of them. Initially, I missed my mates, I missed being in school, and you'd miss out on the crack, and you'd miss out on things that you didn't even know you missed out on, and and friends at home got closer together while you probably got slightly further away from them. But that was just a decision I suppose I made, a decision I made that I probably was going to lose some friends and some friendships, and maybe stop talking to certain people, and I suppose I kind of probably had to accept that of I wanted to be where I wanted to be, but I missed so many family parties, I missed so many big family occasions, so many things at the club were like, you can't go, you have a game the next day, or you have a train the next day. So that was tough initially in the first year or two. Missing big things, missing Debs. I remember all that stuff. And at the time it matters, because geez, I'm the only one missing out. I'm the only one. But then you're the only one in that environment, and a lot of people would give up what they're going to be where you are. So, I suppose it was perspective of, I'm disappointed I can't get to that, but I'm here. Okay, I'm here where I want to be, and right, you'll get over it or you'll move on. And yeah, but look at it as a young kid, it's tough. It's tough, especially in tough times were tough, but good times were good as well. So, you just had to get through both of them.
I suppose obviously when you did finish up at Celtic, what was the initial move, or what was it just a couple of days of maybe just reassessing, or what was the kind of plan, just to move home, or what was the crack then?
Yeah, so you usually know before the end of the season, like end of the season mid-May. I kind of knew probably April time that it was the decision had been made. So I'd gone down to a couple of clubs in England. I'd gone to Chesterfield twice, who were in League One at the time, and they just sacked the manager, I think, and a former Celtic player was coming in to be the new manager for the new season. So I was like, this is brilliant. So I went down, trained really, really well. When I came down for my second trial, then the manager was like, look, I want to sign you. He was, like I said, he was a former Celtic player. They're going to have the contract to your agent within a week. He's like, go home, rest up, come back. We're coming back on the 20th of June. I was like, this is brilliant. Rang mum and dad. I was like, look, brand new contract, I'm sorted. I know where I'm going to be next year. Just a massive relief. You can go away on your holidays and not have to worry about it, and not have to stress. So then for that period, I came home, and that's how I got in with Bose. I knew a few people in there, and I said, look, can I come home and stay fit with you? I want to go back and be flying come 20th of June. And they're like, yeah, come in and train with us. And they're obviously in the middle of the season. So went in there, and never heard anything back from that club again. Agent, they weren't picking up the phone from the agent. So all of a sudden, come 15th of June, and I was supposed to go back over. No club, nothing. Agent was left scratching his head, should I say. And then went to a club, Barrow, who had just signed a goalkeeper, and they were giving them £1,600 a week. And they'd signed them from Reading, and they had already had a keeper on the books. But I went in and I was like, look, I'll accept anything. I'll take £200 a week. I don't care what you're paying that other goalkeeper. I said, I'm better than them, and I know I am. And I said, once I play 5-10 games, I said, we can talk about a new contract. And the manager was like, look, you're better than him. He's like, I'm going to speak to the chairman. And this was after maybe 2 weeks I'd been there, played a couple of games. The keeper they'd signed wasn't playing any games. I was playing them all during pre-season. And the chairman refused to sign 3 goalkeepers at the club. And this is nearly July, August time. And I was really starting to panic. I was like, I'm not going to get a club. I'm flying. I'm really fit. I've been really, really super active over the off season. I've really looked after myself.
Yeah.
I was just looking for that break, I suppose, and I never really got it. And like a long story short, that manager ended up leaving the club because the chairman wouldn't sign me. He left them right before the first league game of the season. And then I think the next morning, I got a phone call off the assistant manager at Bowes. He goes, look, what's the story? I haven't heard from you in a while. We were really impressed when you came in the summer. Our goalkeeper's after getting injured. Will you just cover us till the end of the season if you haven't got it? Which was only about 2 months. And I was like, I don't really want to sign for a club for 2 months because I'm going to be in the same boat, in 8 weeks' time. But I went in, done well, and that was it. I was really looking to just accept any deal that came my way, and I didn't really want to come home at that time. I really believed that I should stay across in England and really try and stay over there as much as possible and stay over there as long as possible. But it wasn't to be, and I've came back and I've stayed here ever since. So again, you do need a lot of luck. Everybody knows that, you need luck in life. But at that time, I just felt like I wasn't getting any. And I suppose the bit of luck I got was the phone call. And it was to come home. And I was like, right, well, this is it. That's my decision made. I have to come home. I wasn't getting paid. I hadn't been paid in 3 months. I said, I can't keep forking out and not getting any money coming in. So, that was it. The decision was made.
I suppose how unforgiving is it all, Colin? Because it's like anything in life, you can be at the top of your game and then bang, someone kind of takes you down, or the contract ends. You feel like you're doing as good as possible, and then you maybe don't get it back. So I suppose how unforgiving is it all?
Massively. It's probably the biggest cutthroat industry in the world, I'd say. We're talking about top level. Maybe not so much League of Ireland level, but that really opened my eyes. And I remember going on trips to South Africa, and there was just kids in the street who would do anything to take the jersey, do anything. And that just reminded me that there's people all over the world playing this sport. You can never get comfortable. You have to just give it what you can. And if you're not good enough, if you're not technically good enough, and someone makes the decision to sign someone else, or say you're like that door's open for you or whatever, you just have to go with it because that's the business. And it's massive cutthroat, and I suppose that's where that little bit of selfishness comes into it. You're only really talking 10, 15 years. And if you can earn as much money in 10, 15 years, you've got to look after yourself. And if you can make big money, you do that. If you can only make €100 a week, well, you're going to try and make your €100 a week. So, in that aspect, I often see people going, the player's only looking after himself. He's not really showing any loyalty to the club. Now we're talking English Premier League here. But why would you blame the player? Why would you blame him to try and be set for life in a big, massive contract? And I'm talking that's the 1%, the people at the very, very top of the game. But it's the same for me. If all of a sudden, if a club goes, well, here's a 2-year contract, here's a bit of security for 2 years, here's a good wage, you're going to get paid nearly every week of the year. Who's not going to accept that? Everybody else in the world has a job that they're guaranteed nearly for life. So why do soccer players get hard done by only knowing what they're going to do for 2 or 3 years? And it's the same thing. They're working every day just like everybody else to try and make as much money as they can. So people start to look after themselves when the big contracts come around.
I suppose mentally as well, Colin, and obviously you've been with a lot of clubs now at this stage, and obviously more success in the future, but can it be mentally tough at times? Can your head be a bit fried sometimes in the evenings, or maybe what could have been, or just even be prepared for games and just having to constantly be at it, as you said, there's no days off really.
Yeah, and I suppose that's a good point. I do think at times in the past I was like, I don't want to watch any more football. I don't want to talk any more football. I don't even want to think about any more football. I just want to go and do something completely different. I want to switch the head off, because it's 24/7. You shouldn't be drinking that, or you shouldn't be eating that, or you're going out tonight. And what about training in the morning? And you know, so all that kind of stuff does play a factor. And I suppose that gets a bit harder maybe if you're not playing, or you're not winning, or you're not in a team that's doing well, or you're not doing well, or you're injured. All that kind of stuff can be like, oh, I want to forget about it, you know, because it's 24/7, and it can be 24/7 for family members. It can be 24/7 for girlfriends, or, you know, friends. Oh, he's not out again tonight because he's game in the morning, or he's training in the morning. So that side of it can be tough for you, the individual or the athlete, but it can also be tough for the family. And I remember I got to a stage where, you know, like that, I'd come home to the family after a game at the weekend, and I used to say, right, looking at the clock, we 5 minutes to talk football. And after that, I don't want to hear about it, you know, because it would drag on. And especially if it was a defeat or something, you'd be in a bad mood, and then you'd be in a bad mood around other people, and you don't want to be in a bad mood around other people, like, you know. And even after a win, I'd be like, look, yeah, I played good, the team played good, right, but there's bigger things in life. Like, I want to talk about your family, you know, I want to talk about your life, I want to talk about what you've done during the week, not just about how good I trained during the week. So there was a period, I suppose, not too long ago, where I was like, I don't want to watch football, I don't want to look at football, I want to go and play golf, I want to go and read a book, I'm happy to be studying, I'm happy to be a student, I'm happy to have other things in my life, I'm happy to be a goalkeeping coach, you know, when I was working with Leitrim or Cavan, I was happy to have them other commitments. But now on the flip side of things, I'm currently playing well, in my opinion. I'm very positive, I'm very happy at the moment. So I'm happy to be an Arsenal supporter at the moment. I'm happy to be watching football, like, you know. So again, it does come around in like, you know, ebbs and flows. And I suppose, as I've mentioned earlier, I've just learned to be a little bit more plateau. I've just learned to be, you know, a bit more mellow, and just not get too high or not get too low. And I suppose that's kind of affected me when I'm watching other sports. I don't get highly invested. I don't really get highly invested maybe in what the crowd's cheering, or I just watch the game. I enjoy the game. I enjoy the occasion for what it is.
Yeah.
And I put one foot in front of the other.
Great point, Colin. Great point. And obviously, you've mentioned coaching in the last while. Like, how have you enjoyed maybe being on the other side of it?
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Like, you know, I think when I came home, I think one of the very first phone calls I got when I came home was from a good man called Cavan Downs, and he rang me to be. At the time, he thought I was still under 21s for Cavan, and he was like, "You interested in playing for Cavan?" And I said, I'm interested in having this phone call, and I'll speak to you about it. And then I think it could have been at the time I was changed from under 21s to under 20s, and he realised then that I was overage. And he goes, well, do you want to be a goalkeeping coach? And I said, yeah, why not? I said, why not? Let's just jump at it and see how I get on. Loved it. You know, the boys were excellent. Jimmy Higgins, Cavan Downs, everybody involved in that under 20 team, and all the players, like, they were just really enjoying it.
What year was that, Colin? What year was that?
Oh, I'm gonna say 2017, maybe 2018. We lost to Donegal in the first round. And Kildare went on and won the All-Ireland, and we bet them twice in two friendlies before the league campaign started. I think it's the first time since, I think it's the last year it was knockout, if I'm not mistaken. I think ever since that I think it's gone into a league format. I could be wrong now, but we had a seriously good team, like a really good group of young lads. You know, played some serious friendlies. We played, you know, Dublin, Kildare, bet them twice, and like I said, we played some good teams, and we really felt like we were getting momentum, and went out in the day and just lost to a good Donegal team. And, you know, I had seen them train, and Donegal didn't know that, and I had, you know, rang Cavan and said, look, this team's going to be fit, this team's going to be strong. I said, but I think we have the technical players to beat them. And just Donegal, just for whatever reason, we never got going, and Donegal bet us on the day, and it really changed my mindset. You know, I was really involved in the tactics and the training sessions, and now there was a reason for the training sessions, and there was a reason for, you know, doing certain things and kind of certain systems, and yeah, really enjoyable. And that kind of started it. And from that, you know, Cavan put me in contact with Terry, and Terry was obviously the Leitrim manager, and I think I spent 2 years with Terry at Leitrim. Really enjoyed it. First time I had worked with older keepers, older players, so it's kind of really, again, stepping out of my comfort zone.
But that was last year, the year before, was it?
Before Andy came in, yeah, for the with Terry, yeah, and really enjoyed that. Like, you know, Leitrim first year went and won Division 4. Like, and I was like, this is great for all the people from Leitrim and stuff, and the players, again, good people. And again, worked with certain clubs. I've done a little bit with Law, with Jimmy, a small bit with the keepers. I've done a small bit with some clubs in Kildare, some goalkeepers in Dublin. So again, it just opened new doors for me, and it kind of got me away from constantly thinking training. I had now other things to think about. But yeah, I don't think I would have started that real journey if it wasn't for Cavan and him picking up the phone and ringing me when I came home. So I'm always grateful for his phone call, but I'm always kind of proud of myself that I said, yeah, I'll take that challenge and do it, rather than just going, no, I'm not in the right headspace or whatever. So I'm really, really grateful for that.
That was good to take the call. And I suppose, have you enjoyed the coaching end of things?
Absolutely. Yeah, again, it challenges you in different ways. As a player, you just rock up the train and go, right, this is what we're doing tonight. But then as a coach, you kind of need to try and put a bit of a plan together. You're always looking back in the last game. You're looking forward to the next game. You're doing analysis. You're not just putting on a session for the session. There is a bit of thought being gone into it. And I had learned fresh ideas from being in Scotland. I'd learned coaching styles, coaching techniques, how to communicate positively, how to get the best out of people. How can you say things in such a manner that you're not having a go at someone, but you're challenging them to think better. You're challenging them to be better. So I kind of, I suppose, used what I had learned and just going, here, can I make you better than what someone has potentially given me? And if that works for you, great. If it doesn't, I'm going to try and improve you as much as I know possible. And if I don't, well, we need to sit down and try and develop something to make you better. So it was really enjoyable. I really, really enjoyed it.
And obviously, how did you enjoy the experience? Obviously, with Leitrim as well. Obviously, Terry Hoyle and Jason Riley involved there the last couple of years.
Yeah, great people again. Again, different. I was again stepping out. I didn't really know the lads too well. They had serious respect for me in terms of, they're like, we don't know goalkeeping. You go over there and do what you can. And I think I was probably given 2 days a week, maybe 3 days with my commitment. And they respected if I couldn't get there on certain evenings. They were like, that's not a problem. And they'd send me clips, or they'd be like, right, do this for us or do that for us. And I suppose Terry was so open and so honest that I'd be like, look, Terry, can I jump in here and take this? And I mightn't have known as much as Terry. Like Terry, I think he nearly said he's been involved as either a player or as a coach for 40 years. And
yeah.
And I was like, well, for a man just to go, yeah, no problem. You want to step in here and you want to do that, not a problem. So go in there and tell them maybe this, that, and the other. And it was always to do with maybe defensive shapes or kickouts. How can we make it better? How can we make it cleaner? Or certain stuff like that. Or just going in and communicating to the lads, going, right, what's working, what's not, and maybe being more of just a different voice. Terry was obviously the manager. He had his ways in a very calm, collected way, and maybe I could go in a different manner and maybe get the little bit of change out of the lads that Terry wasn't just getting. But again, it was excellent because he just gave me that platform just to be there, to learn, and then go, well, look, if you have something to say, there you go, step up and say it. So it was great for me as well.
I suppose, is there obviously huge differences between the soccer and the GA as well?
No, I've learned there's not. I think the GA is ahead in many aspects, and I think the professionalism in certain clubs, certain counties around the country, you'd have to say could be above the League of Ireland in particular anyway. But I do think the tactics, I do think the way it's going in terms of the science, I was blown away initially. I was kind of like, wow, like this is where the GA is at. Like obviously I hadn't been involved in 5 years and I was only ever club level with Ballina. So to go and then jump into inter-county setups and be like, right, wow, these guys are really picking the finest detail of everything, like not just one area. They're picking up on everything, whether it's tackling, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, right, the GA has come on leaps and bounds, in my opinion. But maybe I didn't know where it was at, and the video and even the stats and stuff. I was like, oh, geez, people are taking everything into consideration.
Yeah,
absolutely
big time about
everything. Yeah, it's gone. And I think, look, it's good. And I think, but then the biggest thing I learned as well, and I'd often say that myself, is Terry would go, the only one that matters is the scoreboard, boys. So we can talk about missed tackles. We can talk about bringing the ball into contact. Exactly. And he's like, the only one that matters is the one that you keep ticking. And the only one that obviously you want to keep ticking is the scoreboard. So, there's a place for all of it. But I think, it's about what can you learn? What can you bring? What can you forget? But I think, again, the GA is just improving every year, and it's great to watch. It really is.
Absolutely is. And I suppose, what are we talking about at the minute? Obviously, you finished off your degree in accounting and finance. You're looking after the books along with the football, Colin. So I suppose working that, or just to kind of have it in the sideline.
A little bit of both, yeah, a little bit of both. Look, no one's going to make enough money in the League of Ireland to be set for life. So, or nowhere near, should I say. So, yeah, look, again, it was a promise to the parents. I said whenever I did come home, I would do education. It was a long road, not having any leaving cert. It was complicated. I didn't think it was going to be as long, really. So it took me nearly 5 years, I suppose, to get a 3-year degree. But that doesn't matter. I came out with a first class honours, so I was happy with that. But I suppose first interest is sport, and it always will be. So if I could get a job in sport that was going to pay the bills, I'd be delighted. But I suppose it's nice again to have a balance of finance. I always had an interest in business. I always really had an interest in finance. But I suppose I'm hoping once maybe I finish to maybe kind of merge the two. If I could do some sort of sports management, if I could work with sporty businesses, and maybe not necessarily be finance, it could be advertising, it could be meeting clients, kind of something like that. I would love. I've not really fully seen a job that going right, that is exactly what I'd like to do once I'm finished, or if it became available. But I know where I like to maybe try and merge the two in the future, and I think it'd be a great industry to work in.
Absolutely. I suppose last one, kind of any kind of plans for the future, just going to keep playing and just keep working hard as well.
Yeah, keep playing, taking it week by week. Starting with another game on Friday, family wedding on Saturday, so that game will be well forgotten about come Saturday afternoon. But no, just I suppose, like I mentioned earlier, I've got 7 games left. I think if I play all 7 remaining games, I think I'll have played 20 or 21 games in a row. And as I said to someone earlier on the phone, it's the first time in a long time that I could potentially play 21 games in a row. And I really feel and see the difference in myself as a player. I really feel the confidence. I'm not second guessing myself. I'm not hesitant in any decisions or anything like that on the pitch. So yeah, I suppose it's just keep doing what I'm doing at the moment. Really, really hope that I can enjoy the last 7 games and play well. And I suppose from a collective point with Drogheda, I hope that we stay up. I think we should. I think we're okay, but it'd be nice to see the club stay up for a 2nd year in a row. And I suppose just have good momentum going into 2023.
Brilliant stuff. That'll do us, Colin. Thanks a million for joining me this week. Of course, the podcast is brought to you by orgarich.com and Atak.ie. Use the code JMac podcast to get 15% off on orgarich.com and get the best skins, gloves, equipment on Atak.ie. Be attack minded. Colin, an absolute pleasure. Great to see you after all these years, and you're flying it. Thanks, mate.
Brilliant. Thanks, John.